Hello, welcome to the Positive Posting Conversation, the show about how to have a better relationship with your dog and cat. I'm Zazie Todd, author of the books Bark, Wag and Purr, and creator of companion animal psychology blog. My co-host, Christy Benson, is a dog trainer and anthropologist, and she also works at the Academy for Dog Trainers. We can't give advice on your pet, so if you have concerns, see your dog trainer, cat behaviourist, or veterinarian as appropriate. Thanks for joining us today. If you love cats, you're in for a treat with this one. This is Our Bond with Cats with authors Sarah Chauncey, Sassafras Patterdale and Rachel Wells. It was recorded at Barkfest, the book festival for animal lovers, in September 2024. I organised the festival to celebrate the launch of my book, Bark, The Science of Helping Your Anxious, Fearful or Reactive Dog, and this is a wonderful panel on cats. Enjoy. Fantastic. Well, let's get started then. Welcome to Barkfest, to Caring for Cats. I'm Zazie Todd, and I'm the author of Wag, The Science of Making Your Dog Happy, Purr, The Science of Making Your Cat Happy, and my new book, Bark, The Science of Helping Your Anxious, Fearful or Reactive Dog, which was the impetus for Barkfest happening, basically. I thought it would be fun to hear from lots of other amazing authors, and we've got some incredible cat authors with us today. But before I get to introductions, I've got some housekeeping. You will see that you have a chat box and a Q&A box. Do let us know where you're joining us from in the chat, because we've been getting people from all around the world, and it's really cool to see where you're from. If you have any questions for the authors, please put them in the Q&A box, because then it's much easier for us to find them at the end. And if your question is for a specific author, please put their name at the start of the question so that we know who it's directed to. Or if it's general, you don't need to put a name at all. And on top of that, everyone who is here live has the chance to win some books. And we have geographical restrictions on the books, which mean that there will be probably 2 winners. And the books that you have the chance to win. So someone will get P.S. I Love You More Than Tuna by Sarah Chauncey. They will actually get 2 copies of that, one to keep and one to give away to a friend. Another book is Claw This Journal by Sassafras Patterdale, formerly Lowrey. And as well, we've got Alfie the Christmas Cat by Rachel Wells. And of course, I'm also giving away a copy of Bark to someone who's here. And I will do the draw for that at the end of this session after the video has processed and emailed the winner. So let me introduce everybody else who's here. Christy Benson, you will recognize as my co-host on our podcast, The Positive Posting Conversation. She's also a Northern anthropologist and an amazing dog trainer and a staff member at the Academy for Dog Trainers. Hi, Christy.
Morning.
We also have Sarah Chauncey, who is the author of P.S. I Love You More Than Tuna, the first gift book for adults grieving the loss of a cat. She's also a freelance developmental editor and a writer who helps people develop self-awareness as a path to inner peace. Her work has appeared in Lion's Roar, Modern Loss, Tiny Buddha, Writer's Digest, and more. In a previous incarnation, Sarah was a writer and producer for television, as well as a film critic, and you can subscribe to her newsletter on Substack, and she's here to talk about P.S. I Love You More Than Tuna. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Zazie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. We've got Sassafras Patterdale Lowrey, who is an award-winning author whose books have been honoured by organisations ranging from the American Library Association to the Dog Writers Association of America. Sassafras's dog books includes Tricks in the City, Healing, and Chew This Journal, an activity book for you and your dog. Sassafras is also the author of the Cat Writers Association finalist book, Claw This Journal, an activity book for cat lovers. And that's what she's here to talk about today. Sassafras is a certified trick dog instructor and certified fear-free professional who lives, writes, and trains in Portland, Oregon. Hi, Sassafras.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today. And we're also joined by Rachel Wells, who is the author of the best-selling Alfie series and recently the Audible original Leo Moon Astrologer Detective, Aries Billionaire, which is the first in the series of 12 detective stories. That's awesome. She's published 10 books, 8 adult and 2 children's, which have been translated into 12 different languages. Alfie the Doorstep Cat was the first book in this global series, and she's here today to talk about Alfie the Christmas Cat, which is the latest in the series. Most of the Alfie books were Sunday Times bestsellers, and 4 were in the top 10. She's been writing under the name of Rachel Wells and Faith Bleasdale for over 20 years and published 20 books. Rachel Wells lives in North Devon with her son Kevin and her cat Alfie. Welcome, Rachel. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, lovely to be here.
And so we've reached the moment where we're all going to pose for a photo with our books. So I'm going to ask the authors to hold up their books, please. And the audience has a chance to take a quick photo of us. And if you don't get it, you can always take it from the recording. But please, can someone let me know in the chat that you've got it when you've got it? Great. Thank you very much. So we are going to start by talking to Sarah. Sarah, you've got a story behind this book. Can you tell us how the book came about?
Yeah. In 2016, my cat Hedda, I eventually made the decision to have her euthanized. And I was not part of the cat world. And it was devastating, of course. And a few days later, a friend of mine who I actually had known as a colleague's husband sent me a sketch. And he's from Quebec. So the note said, "Our love make you strong to keep you going forward. That is what love is about, no?" And then it was from Hedda. It was P.S. I love you more than tuna. And in that moment, I had this vision of a gift book to be given to people, like a sympathy card, but more, to be given to people who were grieving a cat. In that moment, it was not clear that it was going to be cats versus other animals. And then over the next 2 days, it just kind of poured out. And then at one point, he pulled away because he had a lot of work. But then the next summer, I was asked to foster a feral cat, and I suddenly had 1,000 Instagram followers who loved cats. So I thought I'd test the idea out with them. That's the story.
Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you a bit more about your process in writing it, because you said it just kind of poured out, and there's only a relatively short amount of text in here. So you actually had to be quite precise. So did you do some planning? Did you, when you came back to work on it again, did you do much planning and editing at that point, or how did that happen?
In both stages. So the day after I got Francis's little sketch, I just sat down and I was at the point, and I think all of us know this feeling of really I wanted affirmation from Hedda that she felt I had given her a good life. And of
Mhm.
course, I couldn't really get that. And I sat down and I brainstormed, and it just felt like almost like she was coming through me. I brainstormed like 100 different moments that humans have with their cats. And I sent it to a bunch of friends and I said, "Can you let me know what resonates and what doesn't?" And I said, "Just give me 5 lines that are your favorite and your least favorite." And so I narrowed it down. And then when I wound up having all the followers on Instagram, uh, or at least at the time, it seemed like, wow. I asked them if they would read it. And so I sent it out to about 70 more people. And every line is designed either to evoke laughter, tears, or just that poignant, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the text works really well with the pictures as well. So what was it like working with an illustrator for it?
It was, generally in publishing, they say don't bring your own illustrator. But for me, that was the point of the book, was to have Francis be the illustrator. He was an artist, not your typical illustrator who draws the same image over and over. So I think for him, it was quite a challenge because eventually we had to get like 45 images done in a month. And he had never quite worked at that pace. And I also hadn't realized how conceptual some of my lines were. He's like, "I don't know how to draw this. Tell me what to draw." It's like, that's a good point. It was, he was great. I was sick the entire time we were working on it. I was not pleasant to work with. So he really did a great job.
And it really came together. And I know that Francis included some personal touches in the book too. So can you tell us about those?
I only have the galley here. So on the cover, this is Francis's handwriting. And he also designed the cover. So that was kind of a nice touch. We had sort of gone back and forth about the cover, and we weren't thrilled. So anyway, this on the very opening page is actually the paw print that the vet sent of Hedda's. And so it just means a lot to me to have her little paw print in there. Um, Scrolling to, we tried very hard. Oops, I'm not good with Zoom and books. So this is a line that says, "I loved the smell of you." And the original drawing was an open-toed, frilly kind of 1960s woman slipper. And I really wanted, as with this image, which is the shower image, for the characters to be as universal as possible, to be not gender specific, not race specific. So I asked him to change the slipper into a boot and make it a little more neutral. It turned out, books are printed on white paper. I really wanted to have like a racially ambiguous person so that everybody could see themselves in it. But because the book is printed on white paper and it's a black and white monochrome book, we decided to stick with white, or some people have said East Asian. So, but I think we did pretty well in not making it really gender specific. This was based on, oops, at that, I can't do this.
We can see. That's perfect.
Based on a photo of Ariel when she was about 6 months old. And then this is one of my favorite images. Okay, where am I? The just because you can't see me doesn't mean I'm not here. And then speaking of Ariel, at the very end, there is a line that talks about adopting again. And he drew what's supposed to be a tortie for Ariel. So those are little Easter eggs.
Yeah, for your current cat. That's lovely. Thank you for showing us those. And I think one of the amazing things about this book is how it helps people with their grief. And the grief on losing a pet is something that we often talk about as being disenfranchised, because a lot of people who don't have pets don't really understand it, although I think that's changing. And one of the things I did as soon as I'd read this book, I got some copies and gave them away to friends who had lost their cats. And I think a lot of people do that. So it is a gift book, but can you also tell us about how giving is is part of your writing process?
Well, it was part of the process for this book, in that in 2011, I discovered a book called 29 Gifts, How a Month of Giving Can Change Your Life. And I did what they suggested, which is to give something away each day. And it doesn't have to be tangible. It can be patience. And it really was transformative. And it brought me so much joy, which I did not expect, because I grew up in a family where it's like, you got to do stuff for other people and never for yourself, which I totally disagree with. And this 29 Gifts really did change my life. So when I had the vision for Tuna, I wanted it to benefit not only the person who was grieving, but also the giver of the book, because we don't have cultural rituals. They're starting to be more, but we really don't have a lot of rituals around grieving the loss of any pet. And I wanted this to become the ritual, because it gives the friend or family member or colleague a tangible way to say, look, I get it. And I'm sorry. And it comforts the person too. So I liked that kind of win-win.
It definitely does that. It brings people a
I
lot of comfort, I think. Yeah, thank you. So you've prepared a reading for us, and we're going to go off camera now while you do your reading, and um, you can tell us what it is that you've decided to read as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. In 2019, I wrote an article. You can see it, the cover of the magazine behind me, Lion's Roar, which is a Buddhist magazine. And I wrote an essay called A Cat by Any Other Name. And this is kind of the essence of Tuna. I didn't want to read from the book because I don't think it's as powerful as when each person reads it for themselves. So this is an abridged version of A Cat by Any Other Name from Lion's Roar magazine in the fall of 2019. As a child, I would repeat certain words over and over again. Piano, 9, until the words lost all meaning and became simply a sequence of sounds. I'd lie on the lawn and look up at the sky, and I'd wonder whether the color I called blue was the same color my friend David saw when he used that word to describe the same patch of sky. Many of us have these childhood experiences, yet in adulthood, we write them off as childish ignorance. Animals bring that wonder back into our lives. In 2010, I began meditating, and I practiced observing my inner and outer world without allowing my mind to impose labels. As an exercise, I looked at my cat Hedda, and I removed the label cat or anything I thought I knew about her. I looked at her without concepts, and I saw her clearly for the first time. A life form that had nothing to do with the stories humans, including me, had created around her. An occupant of this planet with her own purpose and agency. I marveled at this being staring back at me. Absent human interpretation, who and what are these beings we share our lives with? What is this bond? That is the mystery at the core of the relationship. And it's precisely because we can't define it, can't talk about it endlessly, that the bond is so powerful. An amazing thing happens when we look at animals without naming them, without projecting onto them the mental constructs we've been conditioned to believe in. A great mystery opens, the mystery of life on this planet, of our relationships and connections. It's really hard to do that with people because people invariably open their mouths to speak, and because we have expectations of how humans should behave. The closest we come is with babies, the dying, and partners. In the awe of certain moments, birth, death, sexual ecstasy, we understand that language is insufficient. And then we forget that. The goal of language is for us to understand one another. Yet how often does that work? We humans spend millions of words trying to get others to understand us. Because if you can understand me, then maybe, just maybe, you'll truly see and accept me. Isn't that the universal desire? We all long to be seen. But when humans look at each other, more often than not, there are mental constructs and conditioning that prevent us from truly seeing the other person. When a person speaks, especially in distress, we're quick to offer advice or to try and distract them or convince them that the problem really isn't that bad. Animals don't do that. They soothe us without dismissing our concerns or telling us to stop crying or that John is really a jerk and we're better off without him. They show us that we are essentially lovable and whole, even when we feel our most broken. The animals who live with us are privy to our deepest secrets and most private moments, the parts of ourselves we wouldn't dare show another human. The essence of our relationship with animals is that of fellow occupants of this planet witnessing each other. So many of us go through life carrying shame and self-doubt, and often these become wedges in our romantic or personal relationships. Yet animals love us anyway, wholly and unconditionally. Animals teach us, if we let them, what it truly means to love and to be loved. As anyone who has lived with a cat or dog can tell you, animals are far more forgiving than people. Hedda would fight tooth and claw against being given a pill, with looks and sounds of outrage that even a human could understand. Yet only a few minutes later, she'd be curled up next to me, purring. Animals don't cling to resentment, despite a memory capacity to do so. Assuming nothing in their life circumstance has conditioned them to live from fear, companion animals love purely and wholly. And in turn, most of us would do anything for our pets. They teach us the ferocity of love. Who are we to say that's not intelligence of the highest order? That's the end of the reading.
Thank you very much. That was absolutely beautiful. Loved it. Thank you. And we're going to ask Sassafras and Rachel to come back on camera. And I'm going to hand over to Christy to talk to Sassafras next.
Perfect. Thank you. Apricot is actually blocking my questions for Sassafras, but he had been sitting there as you read, and he had pressed his forehead against my screen, which he has never done that before. So I just thought I should mention that. It was pretty special. I tried to get a picture, but didn't get it. So Sassafras, the Claude This journal, which I love, and I love that you can write in it. Like, I love that it prompts you to write in it. And I love that with your the similar book that you made for dogs too. It's so interactive, you know. And there's something about writing. So Claude This journal follows the success of your previous book, the Chew This journal. And I know you won a Muse medallion from the Cat Writers Association. How did that help this book come about?
Yeah, so there was a cover. Actually, it was the cover feature story for an issue of Catster magazine when Catster was still that I had written. That was about trick for cats, and it was very well received. And it won that particular article won a Muse medallion. And after that happened, it was the same year that my two dog trick books, including Chew This Journal, had been released. And when the cat article won a Muse medallion, the publisher came to me and they were like, but what if we did a cat book? Could we do a whole cat book? Is there enough enrichment activities, tricks, things that we could do? And I was like, absolutely. So it was very much a result of being able to demonstrate in the world that there was interest in cat activities, and the publisher saw the success of that article, and that was the book.
Perfect. So why do you think cat guardians should think about enrichment more? And that's a big thing in the dog world, but why do cat people need to think about this?
Yeah, it's a huge thing in the dog world. And I think I'm hoping that we're getting to a place that we're starting to think about it more with cats as well, because it's so important to be able to provide cats with a exciting, interesting, sensory rich environment to live in. And it's part of helping our cats to bond with us, to have more fun, to just in general have more engagement in their environment.
I love that there's so many things in the book that you can just kind of slot into your life, like things that I think you, as a cat person, you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, my cat likes running water. Like I could turn the tap on for them when they're, like I love how it's just like, part of everyday life, but really, making things better for the cat. So can you give us some examples of the range of activities that are in the book?
Yeah, so I really wanted there to be a variety of activities that could work for people who, to your point, were like, I've never thought about this. I'm probably not going to go out and like retool my entire like home environment to like create some sort of, massive enrichment jungle gym for my cat. Fair enough. So I wanted to include activities that people could do with things they already had around the house. So using the tap water, using delivery boxes or cereal boxes to create a sensory scent game for their cat. So things like that, all the way to like design and build a patio or let's do crafts together. So I really tried to create a range of activities to meet different readers.
Nice. I just this morning I saw a reel on Facebook that was like someone was making a charcuterie. She's like, I'm in Saturday night. I'm in with my cats. I'm making them a charcuterie board. And it was all like, how they make like the movement all, attractive. I was like, right on, a charcuterie board. Can you tell us more about your favorite activities in the book?
Ooh, yeah. I think that my favorite activities really are rooted in thinking about sensory enrichment for cats. So how are they experiencing the world, like touch, smell, things like that. So one thing that I really enjoy is creating a natural sensory box. So going outside and bringing in dried leaves or things like that you're finding outside and putting them in a box and letting your cat explore and pot them, or creating a fishing game. That's a messy one, but in a bathroom, on a kitchen floor, and having a sort of a little tub that you can put some amount of water in and waterproof cat toys and letting your cat fish them out. I think it's very, very fun.
I love that. Yeah. So if someone wants to improve their bond with their cat, what kind of advice would you give them?
I think my biggest advice is to, really look at the cat that you have in front of you. That's something that I talk a lot about in the book. And what does your cat enjoy? What does your cat find enriching or playful, or, what are they interested in? And then find ways to bring more of that into your cat's life.
I love it. Before we started the session, we were talking about how my cat, Apricot, likes to rip. sticky notes down for my computer screen. So I think if I were going to write a top 10 list for him. And keyboards. What is it about keyboards?
They make such a satisfying little clicky clacky noise. It's really fun.
Yeah. I've seen those extra keyboards that you can get that are, I assume they're heated, but then just your cat, so that you can get them for your cat.
Oh God, I love that.
Okay. So I think it is time for you to do your reading.
So Claudius Journal, like we talked about, is a training and activity book. So reading from it and picking sort of where to read it is a little more challenging than maybe some of my other literary work. So that said, I'm going to read from early on to kind of give you a sense of some of the training and enrichment that takes place in the book. Cat training. Cats have a reputation for being untrainable, but that isn't the case. Even though some people might think that cat training sounds silly or even impossible, it isn't. Cats are intelligent and enjoy having opportunities to spend time with their people, learning new things. Cats love to learn. The key is finding what motivates your cat. Just like you want to get paid in money for going to work, your cat is also looking for payment or reinforcement, usually in the form of treats or play. Spending time training your cat can help deepen your bond, and training isn't about making your cat do what you want. Instead, training is about helping you and your cat to develop a shared language and strengthen your ability to communicate and understand one another. When we are training cats, there are a variety of techniques you can utilize to help them learn. Techniques that we'll utilize at different points in this book include shaping. With shaping, your cat is getting to put together the pieces of a trick without your prompting or leading them. Shaping works well with clicker training because it allows you to closely mark specific behavior changes or engagement with an object. In shaping, your cat is actively thinking and puzzling out a behavior, which can be rewarding and confidence building for your cat. Clicker training. One method of training that works well for all kinds of animals, from cats to goldfish, yes, really, is clicker training. Clicker training allows you to elicit a desired behavior and then provide a reward. The clicker is a little box-shaped plastic device you can get at most pet supply stores that makes a metallic clicking noise when pressed. Clickers work because you can use one to clearly mark a precise movement or behavior and then reward with a treat. Cats do well with clicker training because it allows us to clearly communicate together. Luring. Luring involves using a treat or toy to lead your cat into a desired position. Luring is a fast and easy way to teach your cat a lot of tricks because it enables you to lead your cat into a position or behavior and then attach a verbal or physical cue. When your cat is following a lured treat with their nose, the body follows, and they end up in the position you wanted them in. As your cat gets more familiar with the skill, you can phase out the physical lure. Capturing. This isn't always the fastest way to teach your cat a trick, but it can be extremely effective for teaching skills and tricks that are physically subtle or behaviors that your cat does naturally. To teach a skill via capturing, you'll be clicking or verbally marking a behavior each time you see them do it. With time and repetition, your cat will figure out that they are being treated or rewarded for a behavior they are doing, and then you can add a verbal marker to that behavior to cue your cat to perform in the future. We will explore these training modalities at various points in the book. But the most important thing when training any animal, especially cats, is that training sessions are fun and enjoyable for the learner. Engagement is important. One of the primary themes that will come up a lot in this book is the idea of providing enrichment for our cats. Simply put, enrichment is providing activities for our cats that give them options and choices that work with species-specific interests and behaviors. Providing your cat with opportunities to play, explore, and get both physical and mental exercise is important for their overall well-being. Cats who are getting enough attention, exercise, and enrichment are more likely to be happy, relaxed cats and may even be better behaved. It's been shown that bored cats are more likely to display behavioral problems than cats whose social, physical, and emotional needs are being met. In addition, providing enrichment for your cat is a whole lot of fun and a great way for you and your cat to bond. What do you and your cat most enjoy doing together? And there's a spot you can write. And then, so the next section is this personality quiz that really sets up the book for readers. I'm not going to read it because it doesn't read well, but it's an activity you can do to think about what your cat enjoys, which then allows your cat who gets ranked into, and this is just for fun, I make that very clear, personality categories, which are bashful bobcat, lounging lion, playful panther, tender tiger, and curious cougar. As you work your way through the activity book, you'll see that each activity is labeled with one or more of these categories. This isn't intended to be prescriptive, but rather to help you get an idea for where you want to start and to give you a sense of things your cat might enjoy. Although many cats have one category they most align with, most will be a mixture. So look at categories your cat scored high in when selecting activities to start doing with your cat. Keep in mind that though your cat might enjoy or excel at activities keep in mind though that your cat might enjoy or excel at activities not identified with their personality trait. So that is sort of the framework for then going through the book of that each of the activities are marked by a personality trait that your cat might connect with.
I love that. Thank you, Sassafras. The book is so much fun. I think my cat is a curious cougar, and it's really nice having all these different activities that you can do with the cat. So that's brilliant. Thank you very, very much. And yeah, Rachel, we're going to talk about Alfie the Christmas Cat now. So, Alfie the Christmas Cat is actually quite a long series of books now. It follows along from a few other Alfie the Cat books. So, can you go back to when this started and tell us how the first Alfie the Cat book came about?
Yes, of course. And first off, I'd like to apologise for being on here and saying the Christmas word because I know it's September. So I do feel quite bad about that because I'm not ready to talk about Christmas. But anyway, it's just that it's the latest in the series. I started writing the Alfie the Doorstep Cat series, gosh, about 10 years ago. I've always been a cat lover, and I've always written fiction. So it was sort of a marriage of the two. Plus the fact that before that I'd been writing mainly sort of like contemporary romance, and I was going through a divorce and I hated men at the time. Or I hated that one anyway. And a cat seemed like a safer bet for me. So I've always wanted to write about the cats I've had in my life throughout my life from when I was born. And so Alfie the Doorstep Cat seemed to be a sort of embodiment of all of that.
Mm, brilliant, thank you. And so in the book, we have to talk about Christmas because
We do,
Alfie,
sorry.
we do, because Alfie has to save Christmas. So without giving us any spoilers, what can you tell us about what this particular Alfie book is about?
Yeah. So this book is about, so Alfie is throughout the series, he's always sort of fixing problems and solving problems. That's the kind of cat he is. And in this one, he has to save Christmas. The to put a bit of context, the younger human beings in his life want to do a nativity show in the community to bring the community together and to raise money for a homeless charity. But somebody is out to sabotage it, and someone, which ends up being Alfie, has to discover who that is and save the show.
Thank you. And so Alfie is a very special cat. Now you actually have a cat called Alfie.
I do.
But you said before that the fictional cat Alfie is an amalgamation of cats that you've known in your life. So how have those real cats influenced the fictional Alfie?
I think my bond with cats throughout my life has always been really strong, but each cat I've had has had a very distinct personality, as we were just talking about. And but for example, there's the element in Alfie of the cat who chose us. We had a kitten that kept coming to our house, and it turned out he was a farm kitten, or supposed to be a farm kitten, didn't want to be a farm kitten, wanted to be pampered. And so he kept coming back, and we kept having to take him back and in the end, I begged my parents to persuade the farmer's wife to let us keep him. And we did, and we had him for over 18 years. That was Tigger. So that was sort of, that whole premise of cats choosing their humans, choosing their homes, choosing their environments. And I mean, cats are smart. And if you listen to them and if you look for the signs, they really do sort of, I don't know, I find them very inspiring in everyday life. And that's another thing that all the cats I've had have had. I've had, cats who were really affectionate, those who were very aloof. And I've managed to put all those characters somewhere into the books. And that's been really lovely for me for my journey.
I think that's really lovely. And I think it helps make Alfie seem so real as well. And one of the things I love about Alfie is that he cares, like he really cares. And many people feel that their own cat helps them in some ways. And obviously in this book, Alfie actually goes and saves Christmas. So do you think that helping theme is part of what makes the Alfie book so relatable? And also, can you tell us something about the themes of the book in relation to that as well?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, throughout the series, they've always been about sort of helping how cats can help humans. Because, when we have a pet, we give them everything, but actually they give us even more than everything. That's sort of the premise that I base that on. And throughout sort of the series, it's always been about kindness, being kind and helping. And looking at loneliness, looking at issues that we really face, and sort of using a cat's view. And by the way, this is fiction, so if I sound crazy, I have a get out of crazy clause, which is it's fiction. But so all those themes that carry on are, and also Alfie is, yes, he's very kind, but he's also quite arrogant, in a lovely way. He thinks he's great, and he does have a few comments. He gets into scrapes, he nearly drowned once because he was so mesmerized by his own reflection. It's just sort of those. So it's not just all hearts and flowers, but it's just the journey of this cat that does really change people's lives, as I believe all our cats and dogs do. So, and there is a dog actually that comes into the book, which is in the Christmas book, came in a bit later. So it's not just cat centric, but it is very cat. It's very cat.
It is very cat. And I
Very
think that's
cat.
perfect for those of us who love cats. And so not crazy at all because everyone who loves cats kind of feels that way about them anyway. And Alfie's actually been delighting readers for a long time. So what is it like to sustain a character like Alfie and also, some of his supporting cast over so many books?
I think the problem that we have, and I'm getting to now, sort of, 7, 8 books into the series, is that there's some characters that have always been in the books. But obviously to have new stories, you have to introduce new characters. So one of the sort of dangers is that you end up with like a million characters and it's just a book filled with names. And everyone's like, I don't know who anyone is. So that's what have been one of my main challenges, is trying to keep it. And I also, another challenge I faced was I really wanted to deal with issues that we've talked about today, like grief. And so I used the loss of a cat in one of the stories, and lots of people have never forgiven me for that. So that was an interesting learning curve. But it was a way of saying, our cats miss their companions if we lose a pet, as well as us. I wanted to sort of do it from that point of view. Never, don't do that. I still get hate mail, but but it's I think so. The challenges are always keeping a new story, keeping it fresh. But Alfie has become so much larger than life in my life. It's almost like he is real. So he sort of almost comes up with his own stories.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yes, yes. And it's funny because yesterday we had a session with crime and mystery writers, and one of those books starts with some dogs being poisoned. And the author said, very first thing he said was, none of the dogs died, the dogs are all okay. But yeah, and I think that's an important message, and it relates to Sarah's book as well, that
Yeah.
grief is real and the grief is there for the cats as well, at least for some cats anyway. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I know this is the other thing. I grew up with cats and dogs, and when we lost one, it was painful for the family, but it was very painful for their companion, their animal companion as well. And I don't think that ever gets it does not ever get considered, but that's something that I think we need to raise awareness of. So
Yeah.
that's what I did there.
Thank you. Well, I think it's time for us to hear from Alfie, and I know you've prepared a reading for us, so we will go off
Yes,
camera.
keep it very short. So obviously it's quite hard to put into context because it is from a fictional novel, which is a lot of words. But as I said, there's a nativity in the community, and everyone's being involved, but somebody's trying to sabotage it. So I just wanted to read a little bit about that. The neighbourhood watch meeting was, luckily, being held at our house. By the way, Alfie's narrating this, just in case you wondered, which meant that I, Alfie, could attend. It was Monday evening and a rare evening away from the show. We were no closer to finding out who had done the damage so far, but it was early days and thankfully nothing else had happened. Because some of the sets had been ruined, Thomas and his crew were working late to redo them all, so maybe the bad person just hadn't had the opportunity. Or maybe they had stopped. I could only hope that they'd stopped. Right, let's get started, Vic said, clapping his hands. Claire and Jonathan were rushing around making drinks for everyone, and the living room was full, standing room only. The doorbell rang and Vic tutted loudly. He hated anyone being even 1 minute late. Polly opened the door and came back in with Barbara. So sorry I'm late, she said with a big smile. I'm here to help. I was unsure whether I believed her or not, but she sounded genuine. She didn't even glare at me, so I thought perhaps she was becoming nice, or nicer at least. I settled down for the meeting in a good listening place on Matt's lap. He stroked me as he listened to Vic. We will not let anyone ruin all our hard work, he was saying. No, and also, Edgar Road does not tolerate crime of any description, Heather added. We will catch whoever it is, and they will be sorry they messed with us, Vic shouted, making Matt jump. I concentrated as they tried to come up with an action plan, which was really no plan at all, as often humans do. Vic said that they could arrange security to be at the hall at all times, but that wasn't practical, and the idea of installing cameras was too expensive. So it did give me an idea. If it came to it, maybe we cats could keep watch. Yes, that wasn't a bad idea at all. Honestly, the cat neighborhood watch could foil this before one human did, but then we usually did. The meeting conclusion was a pretty woolly plan where everyone would keep their eyes open and report anything suspicious. But it was still satisfying to me to see everybody firmly behind making the show a success and trying to stop anyone from ruining it. Surely with us all working together, the show would be safe. Well, it would be now I was on the job. Right, so we all know what we're doing, Vic said after a lot of waffle. I would have been surprised if anyone knew what they were doing. Pretty much nothing, Jonathan muttered, echoing my thoughts, and Claire swatted him. There was a bit more chatter before Jonathan finally got everyone out. Matt and Polly stayed behind for a last drink and a debrief. Do you think the person who did it was here? Polly asked, sipping her wine. Probably. I would be, if it was me, to see what we knew, Matt replied. I just don't understand why anyone would try to sabotage our show, Polly said. No one seems to know anything, though. That's the problem. True, and no one was acting in a suspicious manner, Claire pointed out, which I agreed with because I had been watching and I have very good intuition. But why? Matt said again, as confused as we all were. Well, I'm pretty sure it can't be about the charity. No one could object to supporting the homeless shelter, surely. Which brings us back to square one. No idea who has been messing with the show. They were wrong, I thought, as I settled into my bed that night. It wasn't at square one at all. We all knew it wasn't anyone we were close to because they all cared too much. The more I thought about it, the more I thought I would have to sneak into the hall overnight and act as a watch cat. But I didn't fancy doing it alone, and I had to have a long, hard think about who would be happy to join me. Snowball, my girlfriend, would be my obvious choice, but I was pretty sure there was no way she could sneak out without Harold noticing. George is my son. He would probably love the adventure, but what if the person did turn up and we were in danger? I couldn't put him in danger. He was still my kitten after all. None of my cat friends from the recreation ground would be that happy to spend the night away from Edgar Road, although I knew if I asked them, they would, but I didn't want to put them in that position. And of course, my feral friends, Dustbin and Ali, would join me if it was an emergency, but nighttime was the busiest time in their yard and they needed to keep the rodents at bay. That was their job after all. So yet again, it left me with one option, and that was myself. I wasn't overly keen, but I could see no other way. Let me finish.
That was wonderful. Thank you. I love it. It's really nice to hear it in your voice. Or Alfie's voice, which is your voice. And I love this idea of a neighborhood watch cat as well. So I think that's very cool. Thank you. And we're going to have everyone come back on camera, please. And we have a question for all of our writers, which we're asking all of the authors at this festival. And it's what brings you hope for the cat-human relationship? So we'll start with Sarah, please, if you could tell us what brings you hope for the cat-human relationship.
Well, I think at the risk of bringing politics into this, that cats are saving democracy right now. cats and cat ladies of all genders. I use ladies as metaphorically. I think we're starting to see that. I mean, in 2024, we used to be like, okay, humans are the be all and end all. And it's like, can we really believe that our species is like the apex of evolution? We're really starting to recognize the sentience of other beings and their autonomy. And that gives me a lot of hope.
Great. Thank you. There's some appreciation for that in the audience, typing away there. Sassafras, what brings you hope for the cat-human relationship?
I mean, I can't top that. I think, especially as the only American in here. Yes, please, saving democracy. But no, beyond that, I think that one of the things I think a lot about is, I've been involved in dog sports for 25 years, a long time, and when I started writing professionally about dogs and cats, the response I would get when I would talk about cat enrichment or cat training or cat activities of any sort was often sort of this scoffing laughter. And people would just be like, that's ridiculous. This is just one more bizarre thing you're doing. And I don't get that response nearly so frequently anymore. And so just on a very personal level, it's something that gives me a lot of hope about cats and the ways in which I think culturally our understanding of their emotional and physical and needs is behind what we understand about dogs, but I think we're getting there, and that's been really exciting to see.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And Rachel, what brings you hope for the cat-human relationship?
Well, I agree with all that. And I personally think Alfie would think he could single-handedly save democracy, by the way. But everything you said, I mean, I love looking at the history of cats, and we look at the evolution. And I think that we're almost going back to when cats were a bit more worshipped and a bit more given more importance, because it seems to have dipped away a bit. They were gods in Egyptian times often. And then we look at now, and I think we're getting more that understanding. We're giving them more of a voice. We really are taking time to not just say, oh, well, it's just a cat, but to properly get to know that cat. And I think that that's really the wonderful thing that I hope will continue to happen.
I think everyone here would agree with that too. Thank you. Great answers from all of you. And a reminder to the audience that there is still time to type your questions into the Q&A so that they're easy for us to find. And I'm going to hand over to Christy for a moment for some audience questions.
Perfect. So we do have an audience question from Ingrid, and I'll sort of throw this out to see who wants to answer it. For any of the authors whose books are in audio format, do you have a say about who narrates them?
I didn't get a say in the narrator, actually, but I'm thinking of doing audiobooks for the ones that aren't currently available. And I think if I did that, I would really enjoy picking the voice, because I would like it to sound like Alfie sounds in my head.
I can maybe quickly add something, because I did get a say in Purr. It was going to be a voice actor, but I was sent two samples to listen to and to give my opinion on. And the publisher had already had a big conversation, and my say wasn't going to necessarily be the be all and end all. It had to go into what the publisher thought, but it was taken into account. And especially they were looking for someone who would sound okay with me being British, yet the actor being Canadian. So
Oh, fun. Cool. And I have an audience question that was submitted beforehand, and this is for Sarah from Katya, who says, my question for the panel is as follows. I recently lost my feline soulmate. She was 21 and we shared 17 beautiful years. I would love to write a short story about Mosi. I am a lawyer, so I write well, but it's a different kind of writing. My sister is an illustrator and has agreed to work with me on something we would like to publish. Does anyone on the panel have any tips on getting started with this type of project, transitioning to a different type of writing?
It's difficult to go, especially for someone. Legal writing is so formal, and narrative nonfiction is driven by story and voice and conflict and a number of different factors that legal writing doesn't have to think about. And even, scientific nonfiction doesn't necessarily have to think about. What I tell people, my clients, is to bring us inside the room so that if the cat is the protagonist, let us see what the cat saw, hear what they heard, smell what they smelled. so that we're not reading about a cat having an experience. We are that cat, which is, I think, what Rachel does really well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I would just
I have. Sorry, go ahead, Sassafras.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say really quickly. So, I write in a variety of genres, including a lot of fiction work as well as nonfiction work. And I think the advice that I always give to folks who are thinking about making that kind of big genre jump or sort of type of writing jump is to give yourself permission to have fun with it, that it's going to be different. You're learning a new skill set, and some of that is going to be a little bit of trial and error, but to just let yourself play with it a little bit.
I love that. And I have some questions too for everybody. So for Zazie and Sassafras, because I think you two are the trainery types. When it comes to cats, what would be your top 3 of things that, if you're just like, here's the top 3 things that I like to train or I think it's important to train, what would you do? And I kind of hope it'll be like something that's useful for the cat and also something that you're just like, I just love it when they do this thing. So let's start with Zazie.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting questions. I have.
That's right. Sorry, you're not on the panel today.
But
Answer anyway.
I'll answer anyway. I have 2 plans in the back of Purr. One is to teach your cat to go in their cat carrier, and I picked that because I think that's really important. So many people struggle to get their cat to the vet, and that can make such a big difference. The other is a fun trick, and I just picked Sit Pretty because that's quite a nice, easy one to do. And I think getting your cat to come when you call them is helpful. Even if your cat is indoors only, that's a good one too, because you never know where they might be hiding. And sometimes they can be quite hard to find. So that's a good one too. But I think this question is really for Sassafras.
But we love hearing from you anyway.
I love this. I also think that Zazie and I have like very similar brains. I'm like jotting notes. I'm like 3. Okay. I think my top 3 honestly are very similar. My first one is always going to be to teach your cat to come when called. The thing, as an anxious person, the thing I find most difficult about living with cats is when they decide to go off and take a long nap somewhere and I do not know where they have been. So teaching them to come when called, my number one thing to teach cats, because it makes my anxiety significantly better about having cats. The second, similarly, is to be comfortable in a carrier and going places. So not just being in the carrier, but also making car trips or bus trips or whatever transit you have, just something that's part of your cat's life that they enjoy doing and rewarding them with it. P.S. You can absolutely get pup cups from Starbucks and other coffee shops and share them with cats. Kitty cups. It's a good thing. And then my third, I think my favorite trick to teach cats is either to spin. I think it's a very cute trick and it's very impressive to people who are like, wait, your cat can do that. Or if you have a hula hoop lying around or want to go to a dollar store, to jump through a hoop. People are so impressed by it. It's super fun for cats and it is pretty easy to teach.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you. And for Rachel, one thing that we've sort of been asking quite a few of the authors is, because this is a literary festival and Zazie and I are super curious about how people's writing process is, how they go about writing. Do they have it all set up in their head beforehand? Do you sit down, for breakfast and write 1,000 words? Like, what's your writing process like?
I always have a rough outline in my head of where the story's going, but I like the thing about fiction, which I love, is that it always goes off on its own little tangents, even when you're not expecting it. I work better in the mornings than the evenings. I also prefer, I don't really love sitting at a desk, so you often find me either writing on my sofa, reclined, or in the winter in bed because it's cozy and I get work done. But I sort of almost set myself a little daily goal and try and hit it. But if I don't beat myself up, because we can't always be on top of our game.
Right. Perfect. Thank you so much. And unless anyone in the audience wants to quickly hammer into the keyboard some questions, we are out of questions, I think.
We are, but this has been an absolutely wonderful session. I've really enjoyed it. And I think it is so nice to be surrounded by people who care about cats so much and who appreciate our bond with cats so much. So that's really lovely. And it's been really lovely to hear the readings as well. So thank you very much to Sarah, Sassafras, and Rachel for joining us today. It's been wonderful to hear about your books. They were beautiful readings. A reminder to the audience that there are copies of the books up for grabs, and I will be doing a draw after this. There will be 2 winners, and each will win some of the books, not all of them. So we have P.S. I Love You More Than Tuna, and that will be 2 copies of that, so that the winner of those has 1 to keep and 1 to give away, because it really is a gift book. Claw This Journal, which means that you'll be able to do lots of fun activities with your cat, and Alfie the Christmas Cat, so you can read all about Alfie and how Christmas was saved. And even though it's a dog book, I'm also giving away a copy of Bark, which is available for pre-order now, because it is Barkfest after all. And we actually do have a last minute question. So I'm going to just quickly ask it if everybody is okay with that. Last minute question is if each author could quickly share their favorite thing to teach cats, or their favorite thing, and let's say their favorite thing to do with cats as well. So we'll start with Sarah.
I liked what both of you said about teaching them to come when called and carrier training, but with Ariel, playing fetch. She loves playing fetch, my current cat.
Ah, fantastic. Sassafras, your favorite thing to teach a cat?
I'm going to go with my spin trick. I just love it.
Yeah, perfect. And Rachel, your favorite thing? Real cat or fictional cat?
Well, with my real cat, I think I need to do some training because she doesn't come when called. So therefore, my favorite thing to do with her, which I spend a lot of time doing, is play cat hide and seek.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you for that. And that really is all that we have time for. So everyone who is here, has attended live, is automatically entered into the draw. I will do that once the video has processed. The link to the recording will go out in 72 hours, so you can watch it again, listen to the readings again if you'd like to. You can support our authors by buying their books, and we've posted links to that in the chat, and there will also be links in the email that goes out to their websites as well. And thank you so much to everyone for being here. Again, to Sassafras, Sarah, and Rachel for being fantastic authors, to Christy for helping me co-host this event, and to Greystone Books, my publisher, for some help behind the scenes as well. Thanks to all of you, and especially thank you to our attendees for coming to these sessions and being such a great audience. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Positive Posting Conversation. If you liked this episode, please subscribe to the show and write us a review via your podcast app. For the show notes, visit companionanimalpsychology.com. This show was produced by Zazie Todd. The music is Melody from Paris by Studio Le Bousse. See you next time.